Hello, this is Chris Berry, certified hypnotherapist working out of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. This is a recording of a radio talk show I did on May 22nd, 2016. I was interviewed by Whitney Deane of CHQR News Talk 770 AM radio for their Talk to the Experts show, and they were nice enough to provide me with the recordings, so I am uploading them for your listening pleasure. I basically talked to Whitney about hypnosis and basically working on promoting myself and mostly educating the audience about what hypnosis is all about. So here are those recordings. I've uploaded them in 4 parts. Enjoy.
You're listening to Talk to the Experts on News Talk 770. Sitting here with Chris Berry. You can find him at chrisberryhypnosis.com, or you can call him 403-630-3166. That's 403-630-3166. So Chris is a hypnotherapist. And Chris, we left off at the break just talking about how hypnosis works and people's fears and misconceptions that you're going to make them do things that they don't want to do. And you say that's not how it works. It's really more about someone doing it to themselves. So how does hypnotherapy work?
Well, the way it works in a therapy setting is we want to get someone to a place where basically the whole idea is you've got a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. And your conscious mind, it's really good at evaluating things and judging things and being super logical. It's not so great at the emotional stuff and things that aren't necessarily logical. And occasionally stuff kind of gets past it in certain ways. It can happen in emotional situations, and we all know someone who's been traumatized in some way, emotional situations, scared, things like that. It can also happen when you're a little kid. Little kids have no critical faculty whatsoever. They just accept everything you tell them. Santa Claus, Tooth Fairy, you got it, no problem. Stuff like that. Anytime stuff gets into the subconscious mind, and we were talking before the break about that idea of programming, that programming gets in. Unless something happens to get rid of it, it never really goes away. And that's why stuff that kids learn when they're growing up. I'll give you a perfect example. A really good principle of hypnosis is the idea of repetition. And we've all seen this in the stereotypical inductions. You are getting sleepy, all that stuff. I don't do that in the office, FYI. You want to know a really good repetition, hypnotic sort of principle? Parents who tell their kids to clean their plate. And kids get told that constantly, and for good reason. You don't want a kid taking a huge pile of food and then eating a tenth of it. You don't want them to eat 5 bites and say, I'm just leaving room for breakfast, dessert, breakfast.
Yeah.
That sort of thing, It's a good idea. Now, I also, as I said before the break, weight loss, a big thing people come in for. A lot of that is things like portion control, eating the right food, stuff like that. So many people will take their food, eat to the point where they're full, and then eat past that because, oh no, I feel terrible throwing this food out. Mm-hmm. And I have to retrain people to just throw the food out because there is when you eat to the point where you're full, it's like, okay, that's enough calories. You keep eating. How are you going to lose weight when you keep eating so much? Put it in the fridge. Put it in a doggy bag. If you have to throw it out, throw it out. Your face is not a trash can. Just get rid of it.
And getting rid of the guilt behind it and all the thoughts behind it and the battle inside going on in your head about whether to eat it or not.
Yeah, they feel genuinely terrible throwing this food out. Why? Because their parents ingrained in them. Clean your plate, clean your plate, clean your plate. That stuff, that programming, it doesn't go away. And it comes in so many ways. Like people learn to smoke, and they'll do it because it's a social thing. I've had clients come in for smoking. It's not even a habit. It's not even a boredom thing. It's just a social thing. They want to go out with their friends. They smoke a cigarette. They don't even want to half the time. Sometimes they don't even realize they're doing it. They'll be smoking during the evening, and at some point they'll glance over at the ashtray, and it'll be almost full. And they're like, I smoked that much. They don't even realize it.
Yeah.
It's just habit.
And then is it also helping people fight against, I don't want to say the voices, but just, that inner voice that sometimes you have that's telling you to do one thing and you're trying to not do that thing, like having that extra food in the fridge or that extra piece of cake that's in there, and that battle about like working out and getting that motivation. And a lot of times you sit on the couch and you think, I should work out, but I don't really want it. And then you find all these reasons to work out but not work out. Does hypnotherapy help with that and motivating people to, get on these better behaviors?
Yeah. One of the things that we like to say about hypnotherapy, and I think this came from Milton Erickson, is that we help our clients to get their conscious mind and their subconscious mind in rapport, because like you said, sometimes it is a fight. People will literally fight with themselves and argue with themselves and negotiate with themselves. I should do this. Oh, but I want to do this. I could do this later. I'll get up an hour early and do it instead. Or I can do it this other time. And there's this constant battle. And it really is voices, just thoughts in your head, where it's this little yammering voice telling you things that maybe are keeping you in your comfort zone. You know, it's like, don't try something new. This is what we've always done. Let's do that sort of thing. And some of the work I do, some of the therapies that I have learned or developed myself have a lot to do with changing that inner voice. And I have a lot of clients who will talk about, sometimes I actually do something where I take that inner critic and I literally just throw it away and replace it with an inner cheerleader who will encourage you and motivate you. And I had one client who wrote me a big email once talking about this and just her experience. And she had to laugh because she was in a situation where she was trying to talk herself into doing something. And obviously we have those situations where you've got that voice in the back of your head. You don't want to do that. You can do it later. Let's go watch TV instead, blah, 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 that sort of thing. And because of some of the situations she was going through, she was kind of depressed or feeling down and trying to convince herself that the things that we always tell ourselves, like change is difficult, you know, or it's like, oh, that's hard. And funnily enough, she had a little other voice in the back of her mind telling you, no, it's not. This is easy. You can do it. You can do it. You can do anything. And it's like, and eventually she just had to laugh and go and do it. Because we literally changed that voice. And that's what we do. Like, that voice has a lot more influence over us than we think. People like to say, like, 95% of the decisions we make in a day, we don't even think about. We just do them. You know, we order our usual at Starbucks. We will drive home and half be thinking about what we're going to make for dinner or something. All of a sudden, we're pulling into the driveway. We forgot the last 5 minutes, and it's like it's just running on autopilot.
Yeah.
A lot of our life is like that. If most of your life is running on autopilot, get that autopilot going somewhere that's actually helpful and good for you. Because if you have to fight it all the time, it usually wins.
That, and also I would think it just uses up a lot of your energy and emotions just thinking about that versus doing all those positive things that you want to do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Back in the day, I used to procrastinate by wondering whether or not I should procrastinate.
Yes.
and I would think about whether or not I should do this. And it's like, I could do this. Yeah, but I could do this later. Yeah, but I could do it now and get it over with. It's like, yeah, but there's the other things. You need to go to the store before it closes and all this stuff. And the next thing I know, an hour's gone by. Yeah. And it's like, no, stop that. That's not
I could have just got it done within that hour.
Exactly. And you know, this has been helpful for me, changing myself, getting myself more productive, happier, you know, just feeling better, letting go of all anxiety. You know, like I'm on the radio for the first time ever. It's like, I'm not anxious. I'm fine.
Yeah. Well, in your personal story, I remember talking to you before we did this interview, and you talked about how you wouldn't have been a public speaker. 10 years ago, you wouldn't have been sitting here with me talking on the radio. You weren't that type, you know, quote, air quote, person.
Yeah, and even the type of person to go out and do street hypnosis, which I will do sometimes. Going out there to Eau Claire Market or Farmers Market, whatever, putting myself out there, like risking public failure, doing this thing. It's like, yeah, it's scary. It's something that's, you know, to be anxious about, but I never feel so anxious that it gets to me and stops me from doing what I want to do. And that's something I really enjoy watching and doing for my clients, where if they're coming in and they have a problem that's keeping them from moving forward or making them anxious or stopping them from doing what they want to do with their life so that they can just be happy. And that's really what it boils down to, is just being happy, living life the way you want to live it. It's really great to see people get over some really amazing problems that have almost crippled them over their lives and just kind of realize, you know what, change actually is easy. You know, it really is just, you know, you change that programming and all of a sudden things fall into line. It's actually a lot faster than people think it is. Talking to
hypnotherapist Chris Berry. You can find him on his website, chrisberryhypnosis.com. Chris, I do want to get into the science before we take a break. So the science behind hypnosis, how does it work?
Oh, that's a big topic.
Let's get a little bit of it before the break, and then we'll finish the rest.
Funnily enough, it started very unscientifically in the form of mesmerism, and that's a whole other topic by itself. But in about the early 1800s, we started applying science to it and realizing, okay, we can demonstrate it. That's where the whole idea of doing hypnosis to yourself came up. And later on in the late 1800s, we started applying neuroscience to it. And that's when we started understanding, okay, you've got a left hemisphere, you've got a right hemisphere. The left side's the analytical side, the right side's the subconscious. And a lot of psychology started coming out of that too, where it's like, okay, that programming really does dictate what you do and do not do. And it's not just the studying we've done, but just the observing in everyday life. And like I've said, there's a lot of everyday hypnosis that it's our natural learning state where this stuff comes from. And from the science of it nowadays, we can literally just hook electrodes up to your head and measure your brainwave patterns and see if you're an alpha, theta, delta. We can do experiments where I know there was one where, well, this might be a quick bit long to go for the break, but the idea that we can hook up to your brain to see what neurons are firing and give someone a suggestion that they can't move their arm and have it seem like just kind of dead weight and unable to move it. And that's a common stage thing. But there have been experiments we've done where we will tell people to move their arms, and the brain is firing and trying to send the signal, and it's literally being blocked by the subconscious because the subconscious is like, why would we send that signal? The arm's dead. It's not moving. We're not going to send it.
Yeah.
And the fact that we can now see these things with the science and that and just understand not necessarily hypnosis specifically, but just how the mind works in general is just mind-boggling.
Talking to Chris Berry, who's a hypnotherapist in Calgary. You can find him chrisberryhypnosis.com. That's chrisberryhypnosis.com. And you can also call him at 403-630-3166. That's 403-630-3166. More with him in just a moment on Talk to the Experts on News Talk 770.